George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, John Hancock, Benjamin Franklin, the Marquis de Lafayette, and King Louis of France all gave praise to the father of the American Navy. The only patriot to attack England on its own soil, John Paul Jones.
This is his story of his short time in Fredericksburg, Virginia. John Paul arrived in Fredericksburg to find that his brother who lived there had recently died. John Paul was 26 years old at the time and had been a sailor since he was 12 years old. He was caught in a very difficult situation. He murdered a mutinous sailor on the island of Tobago in self-defense.
Since he didn't believe he'd receive a fair trial, he fled to Fredericksburg. While there, he added the last name Jones to conceal his identity.
Many of the townspeople did not like him either because of his Scottish descent.
Thank you very much. Good back, Lord.
John Paul Jones needed to make friends, and he needed a place to stay. He probably stayed at a place like this, the Rising Sun Tavern on Caroline Street, which was typical of the accommodations for a traveler in that era. The class divide was stark. And there is no doubt that Jones would have preferred a gentleman's lodgings. Here, the barkeep stood behind a wooden enclosure for protection in case the customers became violent. And upstairs, he stayed in one room with 15 other men. But he then realized his way out. Jones was a Mason from childhood and went to the Fredericksburg Masonic Lodge. Jones was welcomed by the Masons, and he improved himself through friendship. Dr. John K. Reed, who was the Grand Master of Masonry, befriended the carefully dressed stranger with a hidden past and a familiar brogue. They were both Scottish. Dr. Reed lived at a plantation known as the Grove, just outside of Fredericksburg, much like this one, which is Chatham Manor. This is where Jones spent many solitary hours with Dr. Reed, reading and studying in the arts of literature, music, philosophy, poetry. Jones's letters are far more literate than those of his contemporary sea captains and not unworthy of the lawyers and merchants who went to Philadelphia as delegates to the Continental Congress. Jones also fell in love with the young Dorothea Dandridge, the granddaughter of the first governor of Virginia, Alexander Spotswood. But she did not return his love and later married Patrick Henry. And this is why Jones left Fredericksburg and headed to Philadelphia to begin the American Navy.
Not yet begun to fight, are the famous words from Captain John Paul Jones from his bloodied, half-sunken, burnt ship, the Bonhomme Richard. And he did fight, and he beat the British warship, the Serapis, and took it as his own. This made him a hero to the American Revolution, put fear into Britain as he did this just off of their coast.
It is true I must run a great risk, but no gallant action was ever performed without danger. Therefore, though I cannot ensure success, I will endeavor to deserve it.